Do you find yourself making silly mistakes when playing different heroes? Today, I'm here to help you with that. What's up everyone, I'm Shammy, and in this video we'll cover some common mistakes for every Overwatch hero, along with some tips and tricks to help you improve from them. Juno. As for Juno, I haven't played her enough to know what kind of mistakes you're doing. If you are someone who has played a lot of Juno, or have seen people playing Juno a lot, please comment down below what kind of mistakes you've seen, and let's help everyone out. You Ana players are always dumping both abilities out at the beginning of each fight. Remember to always have one cooldown left, and don't always try and shug them both randomly because you think it might help. You'll be left with no defense whatsoever. Instead, try to remember when the enemies have their abilities and ultimates up, to anti-heal right after a Susu, or stop a Genji using their blade. It's common for Ashe players to try to insta-lock Ashe, but then have terrible aim and randomly toss your dynamites everywhere just to try to get your bob. Try to instead work on your aim in aim labs and train to become a living aimbot. If you're good at aiming, you're good at Ashe. You won't rank up having 20% accuracy and throwing your dynamites as if they were meat sticks. A common mistake I see Baptiste players do is only healing. Instead, you really need to learn how to do your shoot and heal pattern. It's the same amount of healing, but it's as your team gets an extra DPS. To visually understand, here's them side by side. No healing output will be lost doing this. And it's a core mechanic for all Baptiste players. A common mistake Bastion players do is ulting people who have movement abilities. This causes them to most likely dodge all of your shots. When ulting, look for a player who's high ground and ult up high, causing them to drop down and then use your last two strikes on the floor for where they're dropping. Or you could look for a character who is on cooldown, or perhaps someone who can't get out that easily. Most Brig players are too worried about having your Inspire up that you don't really use it effectively. Just like Ana, you use all your cooldowns at once to try and get as much damage as you can in a short amount of time. But her Inspire only lasts for 4 seconds, and the AoE is twice as big as Lucio's with 15 heals per second. Instead, try to have a good idea of when you have your Inspire up, keep it up all the time when you're in a team fight. Cassidy is one, if not the best, dive counter. His flash grenades can 99% of the time turn anyone into a free kill. The mistake I see a lot of Cassidy players do is throwing their grenade off cooldown when you're in a fight at complete random. Try to instead save it for someone who's flanking or someone who's trying to run away from the team. And always try to communicate with your team who you're trying to use it on. Second tip for Cassidy is that you Cassidy players like to play him as if he were Soldier. Cassidy's had so many nerfs to his damage drop off that he's essentially useless to play long range. You have to find good angles and utilize his high close-up damage to really get the job done. It's so sad when I see D.Vas using their defense matrix like this. Try to instead use it sparingly to eat important cooldowns such as Ana's Sleep, Ana's Grenade, Moira Orbs, or even Hanzo's Spam Arrows. You can even shield your Cassidy or Reaper when they ult. And you could even use it on your teammate if they get hooked by a Junkrat Queen or Roadhog with this ability. You need to stop rushing your engagement. Most of the time you complain about how it's impossible to play tank anymore, but let's be real, you strictly play quick play and you hard main Doom. And find that you get blown the fuck up by the enemy team. You have to stop diving the team when they have every cooldown. Learn to soft engage and bait cooldowns instead. You're essentially useless when you're going for a pick but the enemy still has Susu up. Echo mains find it entertaining to start a fight by duplicating the enemy and trying to get the value out of it. But you need to save your ultimate as a second life. Echo's ultimate resets your health, so when you get low when the enemy team is focusing you, you can use your ultimate to get to full health again. Duplicating the tanks rarely get you as much value, but tanks like D.Va, Winston, or Ramattra are solid copies to ultimate, although most of the time, the tanks doesn't really get you enough value in that short amount of time. Try to instead duplicate the DPS, or even sometimes the supports. Unfortunately, these type of scenarios happen way too often. To successfully avoid these scenarios, learn enemy cooldowns that hard countered your blade, like Susu, Send Tranquility, Ana Sleep, Lucio ult, or even stuff like the Mauga cage. Really think about what the enemy team can do to shut you down before you go into a team of 5 and spam I need healing. A common mistake for Hanzo is not knowing how to use your primary fire. You're most likely trying to flick shot everyone on the enemy team and get some cool montage plays. But instead what you need to be doing is actually waiting for the enemies to come into your crosseye. You have to be patient and not stress the shot. Stressing the shot will make you miss 8 out of 10 shots you try. Don't just rely on your healing pylon to do all of the work. Make sure you're actively healing your team with your primary fire. Place the pylon in safe spots where it can support your team without being easily destroyed. and keep an eye on its cooldown. Balancing your healing between the pylon and your weapon will make you way more effectively in keeping your team alive. You have to quit wasting your knife for crazy plays. Use your knife on target you know you can hit. It's important to apply pressure and force out cooldowns at the right moments. If you're planning on pushing aggressively, always make sure to have your knife ready. Another quick tip for Junker Queen is to make sure you study cooldowns. Your ult is one of the easiest tank ults to quickly be denied. Abilities such as Hook, Hinder, Sleep, even Susu, and ults like Brig Rally Stun or Mauga Cage, and even Zarya's Grab. Make sure to ult when you know the time is right. One of the biggest mistakes you're making on Junkrat is always using your mine as soon as you get them. When you're using your mines as soon as you have them to get that extra damage, you're insanely easy target to dive. If you always have at least one mine ready, it gives you great chance to escape from enemies and even force enemies into really bad positions. Most likely, a common mistake you're doing is using your Swift Step wrong. You're probably holding onto your Swift Step until you're about to die and to get out of the situation. While this is good, you also need to use it in other situations, either to cleanse yourself of any debuffs as you get a personalized Susu, but also to jump in between different teammates to give them a quick healing boost, as your left click and Susu has a travel time. A common mistake people do in Lifeweaver is not utilizing your grab more. You're most likely saving it for some kind of heroic moment of saving the tank or rescuing someone from an ultimate. This is still a great use of the grab, but instead of sitting on it for so long, it can actually be used to save both your DPS diving too hard or your supports getting dope. When you know the enemies don't have any important ultimates, try using it more. You're using your amp it up wrong. You waste your amp to engage fight, or you simply just want to go fast. Either that, or you waste your healing amp when your DPS is critical. It is not your job to fully heal one person. And your amp is extremely useful, for example, when the enemy team has Kitsune Rush and you need to back your team out. Your amp is a great way to disengage fight when they are up a player or up in ultimates. The best time to use your amp is when both teams have equal ultimates. You need to learn when to hold it and when not to hold it. The biggest mistake you're making on Mauga is joining the game and picking him. For the love of everything, help yourself and others by picking anyone else. You're ruining the game for everyone involved, and you're probably not really enjoying the game either. I don't really have anything to help this. You are using your ice wall wrong. When you ice wall to wall enemies off, you have to drop it once they actually get past the choke point and single them off for easy kill. You're pocketing your DPS wrong. Wait, let me back that up. You are totally forgetting about your team. As important as it is to enable your DPS to allow them to do a lot of damage and keep them alive, you most likely forget the rest of your team. You're probably getting a lot of complaints about you not healing one or another person in your team. So try to discuss with the other support on your team so you can have a strong setup and know what to expect of each other. A very common mistake Moira players do is focusing too much on dealing damage instead of healing. Moira's strength actually lies in her ability to balance both, but it is common for Moira players to over-prioritize her biotic orb and right-click to chase a kill and neglecting her entire team. The most common mistake you do on Orisa is not understanding her javelin throw. Your javelin throw is not only a great way to put out a lot of damage in combination with free headshots, it's also something that can cancel out so many abilities, just like other pushback abilities. Orisa's javelin throw interrupts any movement ultimates such as Reaper or Cassidy, but you can actually also push people and things out of a teamfight, such as pushing Bob away from a teamfight. You need to learn when to save your javelin and when to use it. This way you can control the enemy team's ultimates and when they can use them, and have it ready to interrupt them at any second. Most of you Pharah players are just out here shooting your rockets, but Pharah can easily be played like Echo now. Spam it from a range until you get an opening to dive in and saving your movement abilities to dive out. Abuse height and off angles to hammer down high damage and pressure, dive the weaks, get angles, and repeat. Ramattra mains are not Ramattra mains do not abuse their block enough. Right-clicking in Nemesis form has some insane damage reduction, and he can survive entire ultimates. In situations where you're, for example, up against a Reinhardt, you can combo your block with damage, simply punching and then blocking, having Reinhardt's hammer look like a candy stick. I genuinely hard cringe every time I see a Reaper wraithing into an enemy team, making it the most obvious ultimate I've ever seen. Instead, try hiding or dropping in on enemies from above without using your wraith, so you can use it when your ult is over. You have an easy get out, and this way it's less likely for the enemy team to be ready to kill you. Stop holding down your shield 24/7. You have a massive HP pool and you need to utilize it. Use your shield to push through small chokes that would easily melt the tank. Now compare it to this. You see where I'm getting at. You need to save your shield for these situations and also to help protect your team if someone in their enemy tries to ultimate. Stop using your abilities just to yeet out your hook whenever you see someone. Focus at someone and where they're headed, and then use the hook, and for the love of God, stop hooking the tank just to get one free shot. It's pointless. You can take off angles in some situations and hook the tank away from your team to where the enemy tank is now isolated for a potentially free kill. You use your grasp ineffectively half of the time. Instead of using it as a last resort while you're 1 HP dying anyway, you can hold your shield up, and while the enemy team is spraying your shield, drop down your shield at the same time, guaranteeing some extra shield for you. You Sojourn mains better be ready for this. So my editor is a huge Sojourn main, and I'm definitely not being forced to call up 3 mistakes you guys do. Tip number 1. Most Sojourn players aren't aware that their primary fire is not hit scan, but rather projectile. Learn to lead your shots by going into aim trainers and practice shooting her primary fire from various distances. Tip number 2. Underutilizing her disruptor shot. Her disruptor shot can seem unimpactful because of the small radius and low DPS, but if you use it smart enough, it can be severely game changing. You can use it to interrupt flanks, hallways, high ground, and also use it to win 1v1 duels against an enemy. And tip number 3. You cannot one-shot full HP squishes with a full charge rail. Stop wasting it on them when they are full HP. Make sure to shoot the squishy first to secure a one-shot headshot kill with her right click. You may not realize it, but Sojourn is one of the best characters to make the enemies give up space. Most soldiers will play down main or with their tank, but by taking off angles and staying high ground, it will force enemies to contest and focus him, making them have to give up space. If this situation becomes too scary, you can easily run away, as you're one of the fastest heroes in Overwatch, and repositioning yourself. You're targeting the wrong enemies. As a Sombra, picking off squishy heroes is something you're very good at, but whilst doing this, you might just forget your team and that you're actually needed in team fights. Hacking the Reinhardt just before the team engages, or Zarya so she can't bubble, is something that you can provide great value for your team with. You're using your turrets and teleporter wrong. Most Symmetras use their teleports to help their team get out of spawn or relocate your entire enemy team, or maybe even a turret bomb. Instead of using the teleporter in the same way the entire game, try switching it up so it doesn't become predictable. Place a TP in the middle of a team fight to kill off their supports, for example. As for your turrets, they are not some kind of death machine that will stop the entire enemy team. Try to instead doing turret bombs, placing turrets near health packs, or maybe even using them in spot that you think the support's gonna be at. Remember, your turret isn't your main source of damage. Try placing it near supports like Ana, Zenyatta, or any other low mobility or vulnerable heroes to help them survive long-range fights. Use your turret to strategically provide extra protection for your supports and squishies. Stop zipping around like you're a crackhead trying to drive the backline all the time. Instead, focus on harassing important targets and distract the enemy. If you stand at a distance and shoot at the support from afar, they will turn their attention towards you, causing a brief moment to distract the support from healing their team, offering a great opportunity to push and get value out of that. For Venture, I would say the biggest mistake you do is going after the wrong target. While Venture is a good DPS in many ways, Venture is absolutely fucking fantastic at killing enemy supports. Try positioning yourself where you're going to have it easier to go after the support. Instead of spamming shots in hope of landing a headshot, focus on slowing down and taking your time with each shot, just like Hanzo. As you climb to higher ranks, after 2 shots, Widowmaker's positioning will often be compromised. By practicing patience and precision, you'll not only improve your aim, but you'll also learn how to line up your shots more effectively. Over time, this will help you get faster and more accurate. The biggest mistake I see Winston players do is jumping into the enemy team without any plan whatsoever. This is the fastest way to tilt your teammates and feed the enemies. Before leaping, think for yourself. What are you leaping for? Are you gonna take space? Are you going to farm primal? Or are you leaping to dive a squishy target? You need to adapt which type of leap you're going to do and not overcommit when you can't secure anything for your team. The number 1 mistake people do on Wrecking Ball is being overconfident in your ability as a Wrecking Ball. People pick up Wrecking Ball in ranked as soon as they don't feel like tanking and they have played them a couple games in quick play and you're feeling like you're going to be the next best ball player. And if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, I don't think you can get to that level without years of practice. I'm just saying, maybe stick to ball in quick play until you have at least 50 hours on it. You have to stop using your bubbles just to go in and get charged and rather use it to make space. You will never be able to push because Zara's H pool is too small compared to other tanks. Use your bubbles to help a DPS or yourself push in and save them to allow a DPS to make a good play like a dive or even to retreat. Number 1 mistake some players do is using your ultimates way too early in team fighting situations. Don't use it as soon as Zarya uses grab. They're most likely trying to bait it out so Genji can use his blade without you having ultimate. Wait for something that could be lethal for your team, and you can even swing around an entire team fight with just your ultimate. Thanks for watching, guys, and I also want to give a huge thank you to CarQ for having a similar video a couple of years back. I've taken some inspiration from that. Is there any mistake you feel I left out? Please let me know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to both like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.